Hello and a very warm welcome to our walk through the exhibition Daniel Boyd, Rainbow Serpent version. I'm Stephanie Rosenthal.
My name is Caroline Köchling.
And my name is Daniel Boyd.
We're now in actually the first installation of this exhibition in the atrium of the Gropiusbau in Berlin. The Gropiusbau, in a way upside down, you see the sky and the roof lights, which is turning the perspectives onto the history of the building.
The atrium was an opportunity to kind of set a stage for these more kind of fluid, poetic ways of transmission of these ideas or these knowledges. And it was also like a way to connect with this particular site and the kind of layers or the legacy or associations that exist here in this landscape. So it just kind of made sense to me. So it was a good way to help people understand or be a part of the language or be a part of the framework that plays out in the exhibition.
What I think is interesting that there are these different, I guess for us doors you can walk into your work, right? And think about through the kind of close relationship to your own biography, through thinking, I think what we know about Lisson and his way of thinking of opacity or creolization or trembling. But there is another aspect which I love that it's in this show actually quite presently is nature, and like how nature is also in a very specific way a large part of your work. And so with this scene here, it kind of has nearly this sublime presence, which is not at all what you usually intend, because there's always that kind of step in between. But walking through this show, I wonder what is your relationship to nature, because it somehow is so much more present here now than I've ever experienced in exhibitions I've seen of yours.
The initiation of this particular painting was it's where my mother was, where she grew up, and I was born at the foot of this kind of mountain here. This is the township where I grew up. This landscape kind of, it has a particular sunset that is really sublime and beautiful. And it was about sharing that, the kind of beauty that's within the landscape, or that is a part of it, or the way that we experience this place. And it was, it happened at the beginning of the pandemic. My mother had a terminal illness, and I was unable to, be close to her. So this painting was about creating that connection through the landscape with her. It can mean many things to many different people, but it's about opening that up in a way that is that starts with my experience, so people can understand like how it's situated from my perspective, but then also like trying to think about how collectively we engage with something like this, or the idea of a landscape or a sublime like this.
You had already worked with an Acropolis model in the Chauchat Museum wing in the University of Sydney, where you also worked with the model, which is the same basically. There are different, I think 3 in the world, and one of the models is in the university in Göttingen, which we brought here.
Yeah, so I made an intervention into what the intention for the model was. It was about this. It was an educational tool to talk about the kind of the legacy of the classical arts within the Western context, and so it's about the kind of speaking to what is the pinnacle of Western architecture. You know, it's this language of placemaking that exists throughout the world, and I think it was such a key point to engage, because it had this tremendous reach that is still very present in places around the world, and also in the architecture of this building, the Gropius Bau.
So in some of your works, like here with Angela Davis, you really, give space to a story which plays also an important role in this exhibition. It's really the question of this transference of knowledge or resistance through different parts of the world and communities.
So it's just about kind of trying to then acknowledge the kind of histories that were already, being denied or not so present in the kind of the history or the representation of the history in Australia. So, I mean, it's just a way for me to present these forms of engagement, transnational resistance to oppression, and so these stories are important for how people understand the kind of the global context for First Nations people, and in a colonial setting.
And what's interesting that it's really kind of an oral, so like storytelling, or not storytelling, but just kind of that bringing the knowledge through, not through books or the newspapers or reporting, but really through personal exchange of experiences, no?
I mean, yeah, there was so much control over what was being talked about, yeah. And so, I mean, I'm offered a different type of engagement with that, like now, because of the legacy of what people like Angela Davis have done for others around the world, and also what the First Nations people or the people associated with in this particular sense, the Black Panther Party, how that has helped my people to kind of push back against those forms of oppression.
In the exhibition, we present a selection of works where you depict your family members. Can you maybe speak about, your decision to also include pictures of family members into your work?
Yeah, I guess the importance of introducing family members into, the art that I make is hopefully to share or to allow people that I have a personal connection with, who not necessarily would be a part of the frame in a traditional sense, to be present in a way that has a different entry point, or like a different integrity in the way that I represent them. They're not like a static artwork that sits on the wall. They offer the viewer some sense of authorship in how they activate the surface with the light. So it's, it's just another way of dismantling these hierarchies or these biases, cultural biases that are inherent in the construction of the initiation of the image in the first sense. So it's trying to give an equity to how we engage with the image, allowing it to be other things other than what it was intended for.
And then when we speak about the surface of the painting, so this interplay between the archival glue dots and the black parts of the painting really bring the surface into a trembling or a movement. And the black parts also seem to be a way to, I mean, they reduce the image information, and they are also kind of protecting from view.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's, you know, it's about acknowledging what isn't there and making that a part also of what is on the surface, so that you kind of have to understand that you don't have all of the information when entering into the work, and hopefully as an audience you have the opportunity to grow with the work. So it's kind of like a tool to think about the unknown, or what is lost, or what is withheld, and the power in that kind of that process of keeping or holding something.
And I think what's fascinating, what's happening in this space here, is that the window works, on the one hand, connect us with the outside, and the kind of fact that we know we're at the Berlin Wall, we're opposite at the former kind of center of the Gestapo, but at the same time they also disconnect. And I think that's what usually hasn't happened so much, that you also create nearly like something which takes you away from this very specific reference and makes it into a reference which is more relevant for a larger conversation.
And what I find very interesting and also astonishing, that your work is capable of being very specific and to relate to different contexts and times at the same time. I find this really interesting, and which also brings us to Glissant's thinking in a way, which is also, you know, the specific, and then, you know, allowing or encouraging for difference and so on.
Yeah, for example, the painting of my grandmother, you know, I wasn't there when the photograph was taken. I've taken the photograph and then kind of created an artwork, a painting, and then these associations with it, they kind of move back and forth through time and space. So they're allowed to connect with, you know, different individuals, different groups of people, or ideas, and it kind of is about dismantling this like linear thing that happens with trying to contain or to make sense of something, and it allows us the unknown, or the poetic nature of things to be a part of it, and to kind of to exist in that trembling, or the kind of the movement that is always there. The parameters that exist with the architecture, the windows, and this kind of threshold, there's a kind of exchange, a more fluid exchange between the interior and the exterior. You know, that's making this very apparent to people. The light is pouring into these spaces inside, but obviously you know that the sun is out there, and there's all these things out there that you might have seen if you'd been here before. So it's about shifting those ways of seeing, or the perception that you normally have with a particular thing. It's creating a sense of motion. So Yeah.
And as the title for the exhibition, you chose a Rainbow Serpent version, which is also closely linked to the refraction of light.
For me, the title Rainbow Serpent is also about this homogenizing of traditions that exist in the First Nations creation stories. And the West were, they gave a number of different creation stories in the different nations in Australia. The term rainbow serpent, but they weren't all, none of these are called rainbow serpent. Where my father is from, it's the rainbow serpent is called Yamani, and it's also the word for rainbow. So having the term version at the end of it is about the kind of the continuation of this thing, you know, it's like trying to shift it from what it was to something else. And it's also, yeah, it's about the refraction of light. It's about the kind of magic that's in that experience of looking at a rainbow. The light is shifted into the spectrums, and you know it's trying to connect with that the beauty or the magic of the aura of an experience like that. So I think Rainbow Serpent was, the term was to speak about the homogenization, but also about how we can move forward and, you know, have First Nations people present in how it's represented.